Good evening. My apologies. A lot going on in Norwich, the Diversity Festival down by the waterfront. I'd like to welcome you all here, and please proceed.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for letting us come and talk to you again about the opioid crisis here in our city. My name is Leanne Gomes, and I'm from Norwich Human Services. Unfortunately, Norwich is still struggling with this problem, and we want to give you a comprehensive report of what we've been working on collectively to turn the corner on this issue. I'd like to introduce to you tonight our team of speakers. We have Tiana Powell, who is our peer advocate from Youth and Family Services. Christine she just changed her last name. Gorsey from Norwich Human Services. She's our PFS coordinator. We have Sergeant Tom Lazaro from the Norwich Police Department. Carrie Bilda from United Community and Family Services. Mike Doyle and Deanna Delaney. Sorry, I'm skipping one person from Reliance Health, Inc. In between them is the lovely Kim Jackson from United Way 211. And at the end is our very own Mike Van Vladeren from Reliance House, Inc. And we have more members in the audience from our task force who are here to support us and answer any questions that you may have. But we're hoping that you'll allow us to give this presentation and then field your questions at the end. We have quite a big report to get through, and we think we're going to answer everything for you. So the Norwich Heroin Task Force was convened in June of 2015, and Norwich Human Services brought together, as we always do, a lot of players from the community. We're very inclusive and collaborative when we do endeavors like this, so we invited all the people who have a stake in this issue. And to date, we have hosted in-services, forums, community conversations. We've received the PFS grant. And with our partners, we've tried to tackle prevention, education, and access to treatment. We've developed the website, norwichunhooked.org, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. That is kind of a central place to house all the data that we work on. And tonight, we're going to lay out for you the short-term and long-term strategies that we've been using to tackle this issue. And here's a list of all the people in the community who work with us, who we all work together on this issue, and you can see it's quite extensive. So, the heroin and opioid trends. The insert to your left shows the number of heroin and opioid OD deaths for 2012 compared to the numbers for 2017. And we've given you copies, and it might be easier to see it there. But you can see that our numbers rose from 10 in 2012 to 33 in 2017. The slide to the right shows an in-depth forensic work that was performed by our very own Sam Browning. And Sam was able to take the actual death certificates of people who died that were attributed to Norwich deaths, and combined with other methods, he was able to ferret out who lived in Norwich and who did not. And out of the 30 people lived in Norwich and died in Norwich or outside of Norwich, but we verified that they were Norwich residents. And I kind of thought we were hoping that it would be a lot more who did not live in Norwich, and it was some kind of fluke, and Norwich was not high, but we really are, with our residents, high with the rate of overdose deaths. And from this slide, you can see that the sale or manufacturing of narcotics is remaining relatively stable. However, we're getting much better at arresting people for possession, which will have a big impact on the availability of opioids in our community. But know that this number does not count the people whose homes the police go out to who call us about an overdose, because we don't want to deter people from calling the police when they're having an emergency. We don't do an arrest in that case. We really concentrate on getting the person into treatment and back to recovery or into recovery. So those numbers could be even higher. Our Norwich Police Department has responded to 38 incidents of Narcan being administered. And this is data from the Fire, Hospital, and American Ambulance. And this is only between June and September 4th. It doesn't count the 2 that Tom told us about yesterday. This stat does not count Narcan administered by family or friends, so it doesn't even take into account that. And it is not 38 unique people. An incident could be the police giving one guy 4 doses of Narcan, and that would count as one incident. So you can see how extensive the administration of Narcan is. Now, we know that that could be a controversial proposition for people, but we think that Narcan is not a Band-Aid and that the person has to live another day to get into recovery. Erin and Tiana and I were in Boston, and we saw someone wearing a T-shirt that said, Narcan is an enabler. It enables you to breathe. We were in Boston for an opioid conference. Did I say that? We weren't just goofing off. All right, this data shows that it further supports the increase in use, and the number of methadone treatment intake appointments has doubled between 2012 and 2017. And more people are seeking treatment of opioid addiction in Norwich than ever before. And this all points to Norwich needing to do more, to be bolder, and to work with more urgency to address this crisis. So let me show you what strategies that we are starting to use or have been using. So these are the 4 pillars of our work, and when you combine them, our ultimate goal, obviously, is to get the person to recovery. So identification and outreach includes education, prevention, which includes strong enforcement, treatment, and agencies like UCFS will demonstrate to you what they're really doing to embrace treatment modalities for people, and recovery, which is the hardest, I think, to achieve, but probably has the greatest and long-lasting impact on the issue. And we really have a great proposition for you at the end of this presentation about recovery and how you can support our efforts there. So without further ado, here is Tiana to address identification and outreach.
Okay, so we work with the schools and have been for a while. And one thing that we would like to improve on is screening. And one screening method that we have, which is a training called SBIRT, which stands for Screening, Brief, Intervention, Referral to Treatment. And this year we plan on training the middle school staff so that they can identify students that may be at risk for using, or students that may be already using. And with this training, they can use these new intervention skills to motivate, students to change, and they can also learn how to refer students to the proper treatment that they may need to help. And as you may know, in 2016, the City of Norwich was awarded the Partnerships for Success Grant, PFS, and with that, we created norwichunhooked.org, and on there, our goal is to connect people and everyone living in Norwich to treatment, to different treatment, different services that are right here in Norwich. I mean, when I first started working here, one of the questions that they asked me was, if you needed help, would you know where to go? And my answer was no. So I think it's very, very helpful, and that's what we're using to get out there. And we also use Norwich Unhooked to go to different events and to the schools, just to let them know. And we also are on Facebook and on Instagram, since that's where all the kids are, and that's how we connect with them and just let them know that there is help here in Norwich. And then I'm going to pass it over to Christine.
Hello. So this is a big outreach initiative that we're working with Uncas Health District on. And what we're trying to do is educate prescribers on the CPMR, which stands for the Connecticut Prescription Monitoring and Reporting System. This would not just be physicians, it would also include dentists, veterinarians, anybody who can prescribe any type of opioid or pain medication. And what it does is that it is a statewide tracking system. So if somebody goes to see their primary care physician and uses up their allotment of pain medication through them, they cannot then go to another primary care physician and try to get medication from them, or go to a dentist and try to get pain medication from them. So basically it just kind of tracks across the state by patient how many opioids are being prescribed. So it prevents doctor shopping and monitors opioid use. So what we're hoping to do is create the information package for these prescribers and deliver them personally to each facility and get them on board with using that reporting tool. And then we're putting together mini resource guides to be distributed to the first responders. That would include information on where people can get treatment, including 211, the medicated assisted treatment centers that Carrie will be talking about, recovery coach information, and information on the detox centers. The first responders would give those to people when they are out on calls, and hopefully, you know, the next day, a week later, those people will look at those takeaway flyers and reach out for help. And now I'm going to pass off to Tom.
So when it comes to the prevention and enforcement, obviously we have officers out all the time trying to locate these individuals, dealing with the individuals that we come in contact with on the street via car stops and what have you. But one of the things that we were able to do is actually set up through a grant patrols that were totally dedicated to doing just enforcement with the narcotics coming into town. Obviously going and dealing with the folks who are using, well, we want to deal with them, we want to get them into treatment, we want to do what we have to do there. But obviously getting the narcotics off the street before they actually go onto the street, because we never know what's in them. So we were able to actually set up a program where we know that the narcotics are usually coming from Hartford. You know, all the information, whenever we deal with this, we get information. So with the narcotics coming in from Hartford, we spent a lot of time, and we actually were able to put out a couple patrols where we were stopping cars on Route 2 coming into towns, ones that, whether through past experience or past interactions, we knew typically were traveling with it, selling it, or what have you. And actually via this, we were able to come up with one arrest with a significant amount of narcotics. Can't go into the case much because it's still being adjudicated, but it actually did work and did what it was supposed to do. The other areas, when we talk about dealing with the prevention, a couple things we try to do is, we know through dealing with these incidents that many of the kids get in trouble with this to start, and then they start looking at it from other areas. So one of the things we're always trying to do is get the old medications that people have out of their medicine cabinets and into some kind of safe area. Last year we were actually through doing drug takebacks. We just did one on Saturday at Dodge Stadium. We've done them at Rock the Docks. We do the 2 national drug takebacks. And we have a drop box in the lobby of the police department that anybody is able to come to at any point in time. We destroyed over, I want to say it was about 400 pounds worth of drugs that were dropped to us via these different formats. So that's one of the ways that we've been trying to clear some of the stuff off the street before it even gets there. And I'm going to pass it back to Christine.
So another one of our prevention efforts include doing naloxone training. So that's another word for Narcan. So we've done quite a few Narcan trainings throughout the city over the past couple of years. Our most recent 2 were for city employees. The city was very cooperative. They worked in cooperation with us and allowing the employees to do that during their work time. We have another one planned for downtown business owners, and along with that training, they also get to take a Narcan nasal spray home with them. So we're also distributing the Narcan out into the community. Our hope is to be able to distribute the Narcan out at health fairs. That would be done in collaboration with Genoa Pharmacy, and they would have a pharmacist on site that could give the 5-minute training to people as they came up to get the Narcan. Another one of our efforts is to raise awareness and knowledge of the possible adverse effects to the schools, not only the students, but their parents, not only athletes, but their coaches. And we do that by being in the schools. We have a substance abuse prevention class we're trying to make part of the curriculum at the middle schools. Right now, we're doing that with referrals from our Juvenile Review Board. We have a parent program offered coming up in the fall through CCAR, which talks about signs to look for if you think your child may be using. And we recently met with all of the coaches at NFA to implement a program called Life of an Athlete, which is a 45-minute certification course online that all athletes must do before they can participate on a team. And now we'll pass off to Carrie.
Hi, I'm Kerry Bilda. I'm from United Community and Family Services. I work in the medication-assisted treatment program. These are the four programs, these are the four agencies in the city of Norwich that have medication-assisted treatment. Natchog Hospital has a Suboxone program. United Community Family Services has a Suboxone and a Vivitrol program. Connecticut Addiction Medicine, they have a Suboxone and a Vivitrol program. And then there's also the Hartford Dispensary, and they have a methadone program. Those are four programs in the city that have these kind of programs. Okay, what the program does, how they get the treatment. When you get a willing client and they want to come in and they want to help, they want to get help, it starts off where they get a 1 hour, 2 hour intake with a clinician. And if everything works out, then we set up an appointment where they get induction. That's where they get induced with the medicine. That's by a doctor or an APRN. And that process takes about 3 or 4 hours because you want to watch the person and see how they react to it in case there's any adverse reactions. Okay, from there's a follow-up period about 48 hours, 2 days later, where they have to come back and they make sure everything's good. A doctor will check them out, make sure everything's good. And now the program that we run, the MAT program we run right here in Norwich and 47 Town Street, we have group therapy for the people where they'll come once a week, and the groups are held in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. We try and schedule them on the bus routes, so we don't have a traditional meeting start at 5 o'clock. It'll start at 5:15 so people can get there. We make it convenient for the client. Clients can also opt to have a individual session. If they don't want to be in a group, they can have an individual session. We also do that. The medication, where they get the medication. United Community Family Services, I don't know if any of you know this, but they have a pharmacy on site at 47 Town Street. It's Genoa Pharmacy. It's right there. It's a really good pharmacy. The ladies there know our clients. It's a very good program, the way it works. It's very cohesive to what we're doing here. Also, medication monitoring. The clients meet once a week with the clinicians, and what they do there is they check on their medicine. They have to give wrappers back for the Suboxone, and that just makes sure there's no way, if there's any diversion, medication diversion. So they're all checked on that way. Okay, that's it for me, thanks.
Okay. So the United Way of Connecticut, 211, and Reliance Health are currently providing specialized information, referral, and assistance to individuals who are seeking recovery help for either for themselves or on behalf of a third party. Individuals in the Norwich area and a few surrounding zip codes can now get access to recovery support through 211 through the new CARS program, which stands for the Coordinated Addiction Recovery System. The Norwich Coordinated Addiction Recovery System is a coordinated network of community providers, similar to the Coordinated Access Network for housing support, for those seeking recovery support and services right here in Norwich. CARS is a pilot project exclusively between Reliance Health and 211, and is currently the only one of its kind in the state. This slide right here was the spark for the whole project. The high instance of overdose deaths per 10,000 really was the spark for this project. I knew that things, we knew that things had to go in a different direction. And if there was a conversation between myself and Kim Jackson, and ironically a recovery coaching class that started the whole pilot project, got it off and running. So the goals of CARS of the CARS program is to plant a seed of hope that recovery is possible. Also, empower the person to lead their recovery plan. The person that is seeking help identifies their own goals, writes the plan, makes changes to it. They own the plan. So they have skin in the game when it comes to the plan. It's also to shorten the time to connect the person seeking recovery to treatment. Really strike while that proverbial iron is hot, and also offer a bridge to treatment while waiting for a bed to open up, because we know that doesn't, they're not always readily available. Sometimes that doesn't quite line up. One of the other goals is to lengthen the amount of time that a person sustains recovery, and also increase the number of family members and loved ones connected with the recovery support services. We're seeing that there's a little more safety in numbers. People are less likely to relapse if they have positive support of their family and loved ones. Christine mentioned earlier that that Reliance Health is going to be providing the Connecticut Community for Addiction Recovery, or CCAR, Recovery Basics for Parenting class. We'll be doing that in conjunction with Norwich Human Services, either in the fall or later this year. We're also looking to increase the number of referrals for basic needs for people looking for recovery support by providing some of those services that they haven't been able to address. A lot of times, there are underlying mental health issues that the addiction is clouding, and by maybe getting a little bit of clarity, they might be able to address those, as well as some other basic needs such as housing or case management, other support in the community. Another goal is to increase care coordination through the use of a shared database and structured collaboration among the providers. Right now, we meet bi-weekly, but soon we'll be moving that up to weekly as the need arises.
Thank you. My job for this evening is to help you understand, in a nutshell, the outstanding features that we've put together to help people who are seeking recovery in this area to access it. And the first step is to call 211. Once they call 211 and they give their zip code, we'll know that they're eligible for this pilot project, and they will then, through one of our contact specialists, do a brief intake and be transferred to a specially trained recovery contact specialist who is dedicated to the project, or to myself. Our job then is to do a very brief screening on top of the information that we've gotten from the intake and put that into our shared database, and then facilitate their connection to the dedicated recovery coach for this program. Our goal is to do that connection with the recovery coach within 2 working days. We will then look to the system to provide follow-up and care coordination, where the documentation will go into that shared database. Therefore, we can have a full picture of the holistic care that the member is receiving, as well as collect data to see if we are in fact making an impact in a positive direction, and if we're not, what we should do to change that. That shared client database will be exclusive to this project, and is being developed in conjunction with a company and United Way at this time. That data collection will also help us maintain our quality assurance, our accountability, and ensure that we are making data-driven decisions as we move forward.
So some of you might be up there wondering what exactly a recovery coach is. CCAR defines a recovery coach as anyone interested in promoting recovery by removing barriers and obstacles to recovery, and by serving as a personal guide and mentor for people seeking or in recovery. We took it a step further. We took that as kind of a baseline and took it a step further. You'll meet Deanna shortly here. And it had to be the right person for it. Also have some of the credentials to go along with it. Some training involved with that, because we couldn't just put anybody in that position too. Typical roles of a recovery coach, you can see up there, range anywhere from motivator to advocate and everything in between. We're finding that resource broker, truth teller, and problem solver are usually the big ones right out of the gate for people seeking help with their recovery. Sometimes it takes an unbiased third party to point out a few discrepancies and develop a little bit of discrepancy there, or sometimes people just don't really know what to do, or they've tried other options and they haven't worked for them. What a recovery coach is not is a case manager or a substance abuse counselor or a priest, a rabbi, a minister, or a 12-step sponsor, or any of the other things up on there. We try to stay in our lane right here and focus more on the recovery while connecting people to the additional services they need through community providers.
In addition to the services that United Way provides to every caller, they will get through this program an increased level of care coordination and one-on-one contact. The reason that we're doing that is we found that that's where a lot of the people that are struggling to get into or sustain their recovery fall through the cracks. They're often struggling with a lot of other things that you and I would call basic needs. So if we can help them to address some of those in a timely fashion at the right time during their recovery process, we know that their success will be greater. And that's what we're hoping to measure with this. And that's what we've been charged to measure as well. The funding currently for this position, my position, I'm the program opioid manager for 211, by the way, comes through some state funds at the moment. Obviously, those won't continue. So we will be tracking data to see if we're making a positive difference, and if we are, we would hope to expand that using your city as a model as to how to do it in the best way possible with a coordinated effort.
Hi. Again, my name is Deanna Delaney, and I'm the recovery coach for the Coordinated Addiction Recovery System program at Reliance Health. So in the short period of time since CARS began, we have successfully completed intakes on 27 individuals who have substance abuse issues. Of these 27, 25 of them are actively connected to ongoing services, including meeting with me on a regular basis to work on recovery goals that we create together. 13 of these individuals have already been connected with substance abuse treatment, which ranges from medication-assisted treatment to long-term inpatient rehab. 22 are engaged in ongoing recovery services, and 21 are addressing additional needs such as housing or medication management or therapy, which they otherwise would not be getting. I wanted to just talk really briefly about a couple of individuals that I've been working with. One in particular, just over the last several weeks that I've been working with, he's been an IV drug user for 25 years, and CARS gives me as a recovery coach the ability to self-disclose. And when I was able to sit with him and self-disclose and identify with him on a level that I don't think many providers have been able to identify with him on, I was able to, first of all, convince him to see a physician for the first time in many years, get standard testing done that every IV drug user should be getting. We were able to, with some hard work, get an appointment with medication-assisted treatment, and I was able to bring him to the main office and get his appointment done and get his intake completed. And he's now back here in Norwich where he's able to dose every day, and he's following through with that. He's completing his urine screenings, and he's been clean for the last couple of weeks for the first time in many, many years. And just one other gentleman that I worked with at Reliance Health as his caseworker for the last couple of years, and he kind of denied having a problem and refused treatment. And then when we created CARS and I was able to explain to him that we were just going to focus on his substance abuse, he opened up. When I was able to identify with him on that peer level and do some self-disclosing, his whole attitude changed, and he's now about 25 or 26 days into a long-term inpatient program, and he's doing really, really well. So these are just two of many. 27 people in our program, I would say that's 27 successes. That's 27 people who now have at least one person that they can call when they are in a position where they're going to pick up and they don't want to. Because all 27 of them are done. They don't want to use anymore. And now I'm somebody that they can call. And I think that is a beautiful thing. I think we need a lot more of that here in Norwich. So thank you.
So just wanted to wrap up really quickly. This is our contact information for the CARS program. I just wanted to share a quick story. Received a kind of a random phone call, I think it was last Thursday, from a discharge coordinator up at a treatment center up at Rushford, who had a couple of people that were Norwich residents that had heard about the CARS program and were, he was calling to verify that this actually existed. So when we explained the program to them, and Deanna actually went up and met with the gentleman, his direct quote was, "This is the greatest thing ever. This needs to be permanent." And he is right. It does need to be permanent. Folks, we're in an opioid crisis right now, and we have a real response to this. And, with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Mike Mann.
Hi, I'm Mike Dan. I'm with Reliance Health. I don't have a slide, so. But I'm also a Norwich citizen. I was born here. I've lived here most of my life, raised my daughter here. I'm now raising my son here. Went to school here, worked here for my whole life. When I see a slide like Norwich on the top of the list with almost 8.5 deaths per 10,000 residents for 2017, it scares me. It scares me as someone who lives here, someone who works here. It's, we sit and we talk as first responders, as social workers about the human cost, and that's absolutely at the top of the list. But we also have to think of it in terms of how is it affecting the city of Norwich? And make no mistake, this is an economic development issue. When I see numbers like that, I think about, okay, what developer is going to come to town if they have to see this number? What family is going to decide to bring buy a home here and raise their kids here? For those of us who've lived in Norwich for many generations, when our kids grow up, are they staying around? Or are they moving out? Most of us have been around long enough. We remember when towns like Willimantic and Jewett City hit national news with these kinds of challenges years ago. And I've also been doing social work long enough to, and been lucky enough to be part of several initiatives that have really made changes in people's lives. And I can tell you, with the experience that I have, 27 years at Reliance Health, working in this community, that the recovery coach, this is the answer. This is the paradigm shift needed to turn things around. It's an inexpensive model. It's a caring model. It's a model that takes that number and drops it drastically. It's a model that state and federal funders are willing to put money into to fund it as a pilot project for 6 months, and we've been able to do that. If there's an ask today of this group, besides hearing this information and digesting this information and wanting to know what to do about it, I guess I would ask that right now our recovery coach is funded through the end of January. Right now, Reliance Health, along with other folks on the task force, are working diligently to get long-term funding. That's not going to happen by the end of January, I can tell you that. We're hoping that by July 1, we could possibly have long-term funding in place. So if there's an ask of the council for $20,000, we can continue it from February to the end of June, so that there has to be no disruption in Indiana services. Where'd you go? There you are. And as we know, this isn't just putting a body in place and doing a job function. This is putting the right body in the right place with the right skill set. And that exists. And we ask that it continues to exist. And we ask that Norwich is part of that. If you want to dig even deeper and fund it long term, we're down for that too, just so you know. That being said, I think we're going to open it to questions, or are we going to wrap up? We're going to wrap up and then we're going to open it for questions.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, so I do have a few future projects up here that I'll leave my contact information up if you guys have any questions. Two things I did want to mention is that we're hoping to have a legislative breakfast at the beginning of January. We're hoping that you will join us. We're trying to bring this up to the state level. And our next heroin task force meeting is October 2nd at Otis Library at 9 o'clock. And Sam will be presenting in full detail the results of his study that we touched upon briefly. So here is my contact information, and now I'd just like to open the floor up for questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Members? Yes, Alderwoman Philbrick.
Thank you. As we know, many times our opioid addiction begins with an injury and a prescription from your doctor. So my question is, who is monitoring the doctors who are over-prescribing, constantly prescribing, and the pharmacists who also are filling prescriptions and know who is getting what, how many times? I was under the impression that under the new laws, that the DEA was involved and was monitoring this. It just, we all have to accept some responsibility for ourselves, but when your doctor, who you feel is a professional looking out for your best interests, just keeps prescribing oxycodone like M&Ms, what's that deal all about? Who's monitoring the I call them the pill pushers. They're as guilty as the guy on the street.
So from what I understand, the Connecticut prescription...
Excuse me? Microphone, please? Just for the record, please.
Okay. So my understanding, and I will defer to the rest of the team, but the Connecticut Prescription Monitoring and Reporting System is the tool that is put in place to do that, to do the monitoring and the oversight. However, I do not believe that it is mandated for prescribers at this time. Is there anybody else that?
You're absolutely right, Mrs. Philbrick. At the conference we went to in Boston, we found that only 6% of the people that become addicted get it from a drug dealer. Everybody else is getting opioids in a different way, either from a doctor or from going through a cabinet or something like that. So the program Christine is talking about is supposed to be what monitors doctors. We will be working with pain management clinics and doctors that overprescribe. We had met with Dr. Walia, and he's a pediatrician, and he told us that in order to certify someone to be a truck driver, you have to take a 6-hour course. But in order to prescribe opioids, there's no course doctors have to take, and he hadn't had a pharmacological course since he was, 25 or something. So we are on that. We recognize that. It's veterinarians, it's doctors, and our team is definitely going to be addressing that. Thank you.
Alderwoman Burnham?
Yeah, thank you. Having been in the healthcare field, it's my understanding that in order to renew your license now, you have to register with the PMP. So, so everybody has to register and you have to use it. That's part of the new electronic health record laws and updates that you have to use it. Staff now, I think at Connecticut, they passed a law that staff is able to log on in lieu of the providers. They have proxy to be able to log on to the PMP because a lot of providers don't have time. So they brief their providers in their huddles and all of that. So it is, and prescribers as well. And the state is establishing an interconnected health information exchange where all of this is more accessible. So the more information will be out there. And I just want to commend all of you because this is a really great program and it is a model. Having been a patient navigator, the one-on-one communication, the support, along with the care coordination, that all is the only way to get people along the change continuum and the change management. And it takes time and it's incremental and it's hard, but usually really rewarding and really has a positive impact. So thank you all of you for that, and the people of Norwich, thank you. And I just had a couple of questions. Do we, with all of these 4 people that have medication-assisted treatment, the 4 entities, do we have capacity for everybody that needs it? Everybody that wants treatment and is willing to go to treatment, do we have capacity? Because I know it's a specialized license to do Suboxone, and does everybody get in who needs to?
I can't answer for the other.
Carrie, please. Yeah.
I can't answer for the other programs, but I know for United Community and Family Services, we're doing this program in Plainfield and in Jewett City and in Norwich, and now in New London. We just started in New London about 2 weeks ago, the beginning of August. So we're running this program here in 4 different UCFS sites. And we're expanding, And yeah, we got a grant in, and it looks like we're going to get it just because it's there. People need it, you know? People really need these services.
Great, thank you. And
One of our future projects was to educate prescribing physicians on the 8-hour certification program that is required to prescribe Suboxone, and to get more primary care physicians on board instead of just these treatment centers. So that is one of our future projects.
Great. And just one final question about the future projects.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna, you said you're gonna try to work with pain management providers,
Yes.
and I know we have a shortage in the area, but there has been evidence that other alternative therapies, like acupuncture, massage, and I know the population that you're working with, it's difficult, but there has been a pilot in Florida using Medicaid to get alternative treatments, chiropractor especially, because Joanne Philbrick is correct, Alderwoman Philbrick, in that most people get addicted because of prescriptions due to an actual injury, and people are really in pain. And there has been a major crackdown on prescribing this, so people don't get access to this as much as they used to. So they need alternative therapy. So I don't know if you've considered that as well, because it works.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one of our future projects.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Alderman Browning.
Thank you. I just had a quick plug for October 2nd, which is going to be a discussion of the common characteristics of the 33 people who either died in Norwich or were Norwich residents who died elsewhere. Without revealing any names, it's going to be a discussion of, for example, how come we had so many people who were Norwich residents who succumbed to this illness. The question I have is, and I don't know if there's any reliable information, but we're a city of 40,000. Does anyone have an idea about how many opioid-addicted people we have in the city, roughly? Okay.
I think one of the problems that you see is that many of these folks, they are transitional in some cases. So, you know, we go to certain houses on numerous occasions. Sometimes, you know, we see the same people over and over. But when you look at how many people are actually in town, we may not even meet, 30% that are actually using, and this could be an issue with, because we never come in to have any interaction with them in any way. So it's hard. It's a hard number to post.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wish you nothing but the best as you move forward. Appreciate you giving us the update. Thank you. Council, come to order. Please rise. Opening prayer. Alderwoman Gould.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen. Alderman DeLucia, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. We'll begin with citizen comment general. Anyone would like to address the council on an issue, please approach the dais, and please be sure to state your name and address for the record, please. I declare citizen comment general open. And again, these are on non-agenda items, so the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. My name is Dorothy Lesser. I live at 15 Joseph Perkins Road here in Norwich, Connecticut. And I'm here to speak about the Estelle Cohen Memorial Dog Park, which has been a disaster and has been overlooked by the town for at least a year and a half since I've been going there. There needs to be repairs. This summer, they barely cut anything. My husband, Miss Jean there, and several other dog owners cut and trim back all the overgrowth. There's drainage that needs to be done. The gates won't close properly. It's very simple maintenance, but it seems like it is lacking. This is the Rose of New England, and that dog park is a thorn. So I hope that the council will take a look. I have pictures. I sent an email a month ago to Mr. Rendans, if I'm pronouncing his name properly. He's the supervisor of maintenance of streets and parks, and I have received nothing back from him. So now I'm coming to the council and asking if there's any funds to go and fix the few things that need to be fixed there. I don't know if you have dogs. I don't know if any of you guys go to the parks. I go twice a day with my 2 dogs, and I absolutely love it. And we, the people of the park, have been taking care of it because the city has been neglecting it. We needed picnic tables that were chipped with paint, and there was kids in there. What did we do? We sanded down the picnic tables, we bought the paint, and we painted them. We spent money on a new faucet for the watering of the dogs, hose, clippings, hauling everything off. I am a taxpayer. I do not have children in school. I have 2 dogs that I take to the park. I would like some of my tax money to please go towards this park. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
I do have pictures and the email, a copy of the email is sent to the maintenance. Thank you.
I'm Robert Lesser, her husband. Just add a couple things. When we first started going over the park, the lane crew that comes by, they cut the grass and all that. It seemed like every 2 weeks they were doing their thing. This last year, it was hit and miss. If it rained 1 week, you wouldn't see them for 3 weeks. And that wasn't their off week. So one time it went 5 weeks without getting cut. The grass, and when they did cut, the grass under the benches never got weeded. It was up to the top of the bench. I mean, people that come in out of town, they come in to see like the falls or whatever. Well, navigation takes them to the dog park. Why the GPS takes them there, I don't know. But people out of town always ask people, how do I get here? How do I get there? And they look at this mess, and they almost don't want to walk up to it. Like she said, 6 of us got together. We spent 8 hours cleaning the place out. It was horrible. There's plants that were planted in there that were poisonous to dogs. Who planted them, I don't have a clue. The signs on the front of the park, honoring the lady whose husband donated the money, the sign is so faded you can't hardly read her name. It's disgusting to walk up. There's a post there that says if you're below this height, you cannot enter. It rotted and fell off, so what they do, they zip tied it to the fence. That's the type of stuff that maintenance has not been done. We've, not me personally, because it started before me, last year, the people in the small dog park bought out of their own pocket about 80 100-pound bags of soil, and God knows how many pounds of grass seed to put grass in there because it was all mud. That shouldn't be our job. If it's a park for the city of Norwich, it should be maintained by the city of Norwich. Thank you.
Thank you.
Staying in that vein, my name is Jean White. I live at 184 West Thames Street, Norwich. You're gonna have to excuse my eyes. I got a little allergy going on here, so. But staying in that vein, I live in a cul-de-sac. Peter knows, he used to live near me. And in the middle of the cul-de-sac, the city is responsible for cutting the grass. The grass has grown to 8 inches high. I called the Public Works, and they said, well, there was priorities. The priorities were the Taste of Italy and couple other fairs. Well, that's great, but I'm a taxpayer, and I live in one of the highest mill rates there is. My property keeps being devaluated while my taxes keep going up. And I have this grass, and my house is groomed immaculate. I have all the pictures, but I did not copy them. They're on my phone. My house is groomed immaculate. It's not worth $400,000. You know that, but it's groomed. I spend a lot of time on it. And right next to me is this middle of the cul-de-sac. So I called him, and he said, I believe it's Mr. Angelo Yitz. Been there 34 years. What he told me was there were priorities. It was the Taste of Italy, and I said, okay, well, that's great. I wonder how many of people that sit on that committee pay the mill rate I do or even live in Norwich. But I said, okay. So I called him back the second week, and he said, well, we can come and cut the grass, but I don't have anything to pick up the grass. I asked him to make sure that when you cut the grass, you take the grass with you, because I've been watching them for years. All they do is blow it back up on the middle part. But this time the grass had gotten very, very long. So I said, well, I need a cut, you know, because it certainly reflects my property. I live right on West Thames Street, and you look at my house, and there you see it. So they came, and they cut the grass with a tractor. He said, but I don't have any way of picking it up. So he blew the grass all back up on the middle, which is a mess, even a worse mess now because it's rained. So, excuse me, all I'm asking is that with the high taxes I pay, doesn't Norwich have any kind of apparatus where you pick up the grass? My feeling is, and I'm just going to say this the way I want, that if I lived in Norwich Town or some other affluent area, it would be taken care of. But because I live in Thamesville, it's not. That's my inside feeling. But that's all I'm asking, is that do we have anything? I mean, I have a mulcher lawnmower. I told him I would let him use mine, but he's going to have to pay my mill rate. So that's all I'm asking. Does this city have any kind of apparatus? Someone mentioned a rake, something to pick up the grass. And another thing, when I was talking to him, I happened to mention that I was part of the people that did the dog park. And he said, oh, by the way, I went there last night. And he said the only thing I noticed was one bush cut down, and he described it. If that's all he noticed, that tells me how well he's doing his job and how he's monitoring these areas that he's supposed to be responsible for. Because I've been there since March, and it's been overgrown the whole time I've been there. But I am concerned about my own property. Please, can the city check to see if we can maybe get a couple lawnmowers to pick up the grass or a couple rakes? He told me it was a one-man job. Well, maybe they need 2 men, because I'm really angry, because I pay plenty of taxes. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to council under citizen comment general? Anyone else like to speak to us under citizen comment general? Final time. Anyone else like to speak to us? Seeing no one else, declare it closed, and I thank everyone for sharing their concerns.
Proclamation, Connecticut Humane Society.
First, thank you for my dog, Rusty, because we rescued him 6 years ago. proclamation here, and I will read it into the public record. We also have extra copies for other people who have been of help in this endeavor. It says, whereas pets contribute to their families' true unconditional love, loyalty, companionship, and comfort, especially to the very young and the elderly. And whereas the Connecticut Humane Society enriches the lives of families and communities through adoption services, medical care, education, and prevention of cruelty. And whereas the Connecticut Humane Society applied for and was awarded a grant from the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut, whose stated mission is to provide assistance for veterinary care for domestic animals, especially to spay, neuter, and to encourage responsible pet ownership. And whereas the Connecticut Humane Society partnered with St. Vincent de Paul Place to provide monthly pet wellness clinics, giving 452 dogs, 311 cats, 2 rabbits, and 3 ferrets the ability to see a veterinarian, holding 18 clinics with 7 partner organizations and serving 479 families. And whereas the Connecticut Humane Society partnered with the Norwich Human Services, Norwich Animal Control, Norwich City Clerk, and Norwich Community Policing to provide additional services, including dog licenses and information on how low-cost care and neutering services. And whereas the Rose City appreciates all the work the Connecticut Humane Society has given to our beloved pets and thank them for a job well done. Now therefore, I, Mayor Peter Albert Nystrom, and Norwich City Council President Pro Tem Bill Nash, on behalf of the Norwich City Council and the citizens of the City of Norwich, to hereby thank the Connecticut Humane Society for all their hard work on behalf of the City of Norwich, dated the 17th day of September 2018. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Second reading and action on the proposed ordinance listed below from September 4th, 2018. Number 1, an ordinance providing an exemption from property taxes for Gold Star parents and spouses pursuant to the provision of Public Act Number 1765.
I'd like to move, have a motion to bring it forward on the floor and to waive the full content reading of the ordinance. Yes, Alderman Gould, second Alderman DeLucia. Is there discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
First of all, I would like to thank Connecticut State Rep. Emmett Riley for bringing this to my attention so that I could bring it forward before this council. I would also like to thank the mayor for lending his support once the ordinance was drafted. That meant a lot that we had a true partnership in recognizing the sacrifices of some of our families in the city. I'd just like to say that this ordinance dovetails the city's other tax abatement ordinances that honor the sacrifice that our constituents make in service to our country. You know, the portrait and banner of Abraham Lincoln hang in the City Hall right downstairs. And in his address at Gettysburg, then President Lincoln spoke of that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. I believe that tonight we demonstrate clearly our inadequate appreciation for that sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Alderman Burnham.
I also want to thank Representative Riley and Alderman DeLucia for bringing this to our attention and for doing most of the legwork. My husband, he's a veteran, a chief in the Navy, submarine force, and he's so humble that whenever he's thanked for his service, he shyly says thank you and kind of averts his eyes and just says that he would do it again. He does that in that manner because he feels that his sacrifice is less worthy of thanks, knowing that others have given so much more. From my perspective, I agree that our family has really made only the most modicum of sacrifices. This benefit that we have the opportunity to provide to our Gold Star families is really the least that we can do to assuage their burden, knowing that we will never be able to replace all that they have given, and it is my honor to do my small part.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Alderwoman Burnham?
Yes.
Alderman Browning?
Yes.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderwoman Philbrook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Nash?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Ordinance passes. The motion is 7-0.
Petition and communication, letter of resignation from Delicia Dollinger of the school, from the School Facilities Committee.
Motion to accept, please. Alderman Gould, is there a second? Alderman DeLucia. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, with our thanks. 7-0.
City Manager's report, sorry.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for September 17th, 2018. I attended the Diversity Committee and Public Safety meetings this month, and dispatcher pension negotiations continue. I met with Josh Portier on the upcoming budget process for the next fiscal year. A pre-bid meeting was held on September 11th as part of the RFP for the specifications for the 5 new fire trucks for the city's volunteer fire departments. 7 truck manufacturers attended the meeting, which was not mandatory for submitting a bid. There is still time to register for programs through Norwich Recreation Department. The Recreation Department printed 10,000 brochures which were distributed through the Norwich Bulletin and to Norwich schools and local businesses. The brochure is still ranked as the highest conversion rate to actual registrations, so the book will be produced and distributed for free with Norwich Bulletin for fall, winter, spring, and summer programs. The Recreation Department also promotes their programs on Facebook, via email and website, and you can register online through the city's website. Former Deputy Chief Christopher Faraci swearing in as Putnam's new chief was held on Thursday, September 13th. It was a pleasure to work with, and we wish him well in his new position. The Slater Memorial Museum and the City of Norwich Ellis Walter Ruley Commemoration Committee are proud to present Brought to Light Ellis Ruley in Norwich from September 23rd to December 7th. The opening reception will be held on September 23rd, 2018. The exhibition explores Ruley's artwork while examining the story of his life and death. Also on September 23rd, Global Cities will be holding the Norwich Cup of Nations Festival on Franklin Street from 2 to 6 p.m., and my assistant will be representing the city at the Heart Walk being held at Mohegan Sun. I have attached the key financial indicators report from Controller Josh Portier for your review. This report has been done for 2 months ending August 31st and 8 months ending February 28th/29th each year to coincide with the major tax collections and storm season. Also attached is a Treasurer's report from Michael Gautieri for the quarter ending August 31st, 2018 for your review. That completes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Are there questions of the city manager? Yes, President Pro Tem Nash.
I just have a comment and then a question real quick. First, I want to thank all the volunteer chiefs and the departments for the hard work that they did putting these bids together. It was a very arduous and difficult task for them based on the fact that this time we're purchasing so many pieces of equipment, and we're doing it in a little different fashion than has been done in the past. So it made for a very difficult process, but I want to thank them all for their patience putting up with me and some of the things that I had put on them. The question I have, sir, is these are going out. Is there anticipated time that we would receive any bids back, or what's the time frame that we have working here?
We did have an addendum for further input last week which was relayed to the purchasing agent on last Friday. It's my understanding that early October, the bids will be returned.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there further questions? Yes, Alderman Burnham?
I asked the city manager to put in this report from the Recreation Department in. I sit on the advisory committee, and I just want to say how proud I am of the programming that they're putting forward. If people don't know, like they have such robust programming for all ages. They have Legos, they have dance, trips to the Thanksgiving Day Parade, Tai Chi, they have therapy, dog training, gardening, Zumba, which I signed up for, so if you want to do Zumba, please come. It's going to be great. It's 4:45 before city council meetings, if you could make it. And they should really be commended because these are really positive things for the city, and they build community, and they really are at low cost. And the variety of programming. I named 8 things. There's probably 20 to 30 different things. They have kayaking. They have another trip, which I can't remember right now, a bus trip. And it's really, really awesome. And with what they're doing with what they have is fantastic.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Alderman DeLucia.
I don't really have a question for the city manager, but I do have a comment. I attended Chief Faraci's swearing-in ceremony, as did a large contingent of the Norwich Police Department, including Chief Daly and retired Chief Fazaro and his wife. And I know that it meant a lot to Chris that there were so many people from Norwich there. And it speaks a lot that that our leaders go on and be leaders elsewhere, in the region. And I'd just like to say that it is quite a statement when you see the people that come up through our system, through our departments, through our public safety infrastructure, go on and lead elsewhere. It makes me proud, even though our law certainly is Putnam's game. It makes me proud that a department upon which I served, that Alderman Nash served, and that so many of our former members are now leading elsewhere. It was moving to me to see that moment in this man's life, and it was moving to me as a resident of this city to see our impact on other towns and other communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further questions or comments? I'll just share a brief one. Yesterday, I returned to the Ellis Walter Ruley Park, and I was there with members of the Ruley family, and PBS was filming in Norwich yesterday at the park, and it will be part of a PBS special later on. But it was a lot of fun, and the park looks great, and I would invite anyone here in the city of Norwich to go visit at the top of the hill on Hammond Road. Thank you. Okay.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
Declare citizen comment on the 3 resolutions open. Again, standard is 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the public record. Anyone like to speak on the resolutions, please? Anyone like to speak on the resolutions on the agenda? Third time. Anyone like to address us on the resolutions? Seeing no one, I declare that closed. Thank you.
New business resolutions, number 1, relative to a regular and alternate appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
A motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderwoman Gould, is there a second? Alderwoman Burnham, is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Vote is 7-0.
Number 2, relative to reallocate funds from the prior year's capital budget to replace the truck scale for the weigh station at the transfer station located at 73 Rogers Road.
I'd ask for a motion, please, to bring Resolution 2 forward. Is Alderwoman Gould, second Pro Tem Nash. You all had an amendment redistributed to all of you. I ask for a motion to bring resolution forward to amend this. Gould, seconded by Nash. I see our Public Works Director here. Just for the membership's edification, if he could just give us a brief explanation of why the substitute.
Good evening. So the truck scale has reached basically the end of its useful life. It is 25 plus, probably closer to 30 years old. It is significantly deteriorated. The structural membranes underneath, or members underneath, are beginning to fail. And upon inspection and for certification, it's an annual requirement. The scale company identified significant problems. We did get a second opinion, another company to come in and check to make sure that it wasn't, there was accuracy here, and they agreed that the scale does need to be replaced. And both of the companies gave similar price points, and that's where we are at this point. So it is our requirement to replace it contractually under the contract that we have with Willimantic Waste, who, as you know, operates the transfer station. We have the responsibility for the capital replacement. They have the responsibility for maintenance. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any specific questions.
Thank you. Yes, Alderman Browning.
I will be voting in favor of this. I do appreciate your explanation this morning at the Public Works Committee on why there was an increased cost, i.e. renting a temporary scale. Basically, we have a transfer station where if we can't weigh the garbage, there's no way to assess fees. My only other thing is, if you have the time this evening, if you could just talk to the people about the dog park, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. No problem.
Thank you. Any further concerns? No. Yes, Alderman Philbrick.
I'm just curious, was this item in the capital budget for this year and then removed?
No, this wasn't in the capital budget for this year. It wasn't identified until the inspection this year brought it to light.
Oh, thank you, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ryan. It should be noted that the funds for this are from capital budgets for projects that have already been completed, that funds were in fact held over. So the funds are actually being applied for this purpose. And this actual resolution recognizes that the original resolution would not have covered the actual costs for the fix and/or the cost of renting a temporary scale, which by contract we must have in place with the company and the vendor there. So, seeing no other questions, all those in favor of the substitute resolution? Unanimous. And finally, all those in favor of the resolution as amended? Unanimous. 7-0.
Number 3, relative to an appointment of a regular member to the School Facilities Committee.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderman DeLucia, second Alderman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Yep, 7-0. Alderman Gould.
I move pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1-200, subsection 6, that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy and negotiation with respect to pending claims and litigation. City Manager John Salamone, Michael Driscoll, Corporate Counsel, Josh Pothier, Comptroller, and Attorney Kenneth Plum, Special Labor Counsel, shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council.
Thank you. Is there a second? Pro Tem Nash. All those in favor? Motion Council, come back to order. Let the record show that no votes were taken. I ask for a motion for the council to suspend, a motion to return to a regular session first. Nash and Gould, all those in favor? Unanimous. Ask for a motion for suspension of our rules, please, to add a resolution. DeLucia and seconded by Gould. All those in favor of suspension? Unanimous.
Whereas, ASME Local 2422 and a city employee filed a grievance against the City of Norwich, collectively the parties, dated April 9, 2018, which grievance is currently pending before the State of Connecticut Board of Mediation and Arbitration. And whereas the complaint has been filed with the Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities and Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and whereas the parties are interested in resolving any and all issues relating to the grievance and any pending or potential claimants and or grievances, and whereas the parties propose to enter into a settlement agreement and full and final release of claims. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of City of Norwich that having reviewed the settlement agreement in full and final release of certain, it finds entering into the same to be the best interest of the City of Norwich, and be it further resolved by the Council of the City of Norwich that the settlement agreement in full and final release of claim is hereby ratified and approved, and City Manager John Salamone be and hereby is authorized and directed to execute duplicate copies of the settlement agreement in full and final release of claims and to receive and deliver them.
Motion, please. Gould and second by DeLucia. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Vote is 7-0. Pardon me? I know. Yep. Now that it's added to our agenda, could I have a motion, please? Bring final resolution. Gould and Nash. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. That vote is 7-0.
Motion to adjourn?
Second, Nash. All those in favor, adjournment? Unanimous.